All right, so we've dealt with the simple overlay class, and we can see how that element is actually looking now that we've tested it out. So at this point, what I want to do is to now address some of the other issues that we'll need, and we will do this with CSS. So let's come in here, and I'm going to just first and foremost address the close button. And we'll just let you know it's positioned on the upper right corner. Okay, so the close button is actually inside the class called simple overlay. So I'm just copying this information and we're putting it in here. So simple overlay is here, but we also have a close class that's going to go with this. All right, so at this point, I'm just going to come in here. I'll actually close that as well. And let's start out by giving it a background image. So there is a background image, and we will need a URL to address that image. And that URL is going to say, as you remember from our structure, go back one directory level, so jump out of the CSS folder, and then what? Then go to the images folder, and if you remember, in the images folder there's an overlay folder, and in the overlay you'll find close.png. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing, I want it to be positioned absolutely. And with its positioning being absolute, we can make sure that it's going to be exactly where we need it to be. Okay, so in order to place it where we want it to be, I want it to be on the right. And it is going to have a value of -15. -15 because pixels, because that'll sort of center it off of the edge. If I just left it right 0, it would just be not outside the box. So this way it's just a little outside the box, halfway. And as well, we want to do the same thing for the top. And for the top, I'm going to do the same thing as well because it's about 30. So in here, I've got 15 pixels as well. So with that information in place, I also want to make sure that when the cursor is on this thing, that it will have a pointer. I'm just going to come in here and say pointer. All right, what else? Well, let's also give it a width and a height. So the height is 35 pixels. And same thing for the width. All right, so let's save this. Make sure that I have my declaration closed, and it is. So if we were to preview this now in our browser, come up here and check it out. So at the top of it, remember, -15 on the right, -15 on the top, so that it's just outside of the actual box. It's absolutely positioned, and because it has a class close, when we click on it, nice, closes each of the individual elements that we're addressing. It's starting to come together, isn't it? All right, cool. So now the only other thing we need to worry about now is the details, as well as styling the triggers themselves, because I think we can do a few things with the triggers to make them look a little nicer. Okay, so let's go about doing that. So first and foremost, let's put in some styling for the triggers. Well, actually, let's put in the styling for the overlay elements as well. So I'm just going to come in here first and we'll say styling for elements inside the overlay. Okay, so what we want to be addressing are the details. So it's a details class that we were using. Just opening that up a bit. All right, so within the details class, first of all, I want to say position absolute so that we can absolutely position it on the right-hand side. And that's just what I need to do. Now, where exactly do we want it to be absolutely positioned? So I'm going to say top 15 pixels from the top. And I'm also going to say from the right, it's also going to be 15 pixels. As well, let's just give it a font size, or a regular font size of, say, 11 pixels. And I'll give it a color to determine what color we want our text to be. So here I'm just going to say FFF for a nice white. And finally, we'll give it a width amount so that it's not spread out everywhere. And the width amount, I think 150 will do just fine. Okay, so let's just make sure that that's closed properly. And if I were to save this, and let's just preview in the browser. Check it out. Nice. It is positioned so much from the top, so much from the right-hand side, so it's off to the side. And because we've specified a width, we're positioning it exactly where we want it to be. Very nice. All right, what else? Well, let's take a look. We can come in here, and we could also give information for the details H3. So I think I'll just copy this information right here. And if I just put in details, but H3, because remember that's the little headline, let's come in and give it a color. Now, we could work with like a specific green, but here I'm just saying ABA, which will give us a green. The font size, I'll make it a little bit bigger. Just say like 15. You could give it 16 or more, whatever. It's completely up to you. This is totally customizable. So if I come in here and close this, let's take a look and see what that's going to give us. Check it out. You're good to go. Now, if you wanted to, you could also, like, reduce the amount of information in between the margins areas of this particular file. So if you wish, you could easily address that inside here. But, I don't think we necessarily need to do that. Although if you wanted to, it's perfectly fine for you to do so. Okay, so returning back to our CSS, the only other thing I need to do is to work with those triggers. So let's come back in the next video and I'll show you how to do that.